Hello, and welcome to the Terminology Leading Practices stream of the SNOMED CT Expo 2022. My name is Mark Banks. I'm a map specialist and terminologist here at SNOMED International, and I'll be moderating today's session. All questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. For those online attendees, please type your questions in the Q&A box, and for those in person, please raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone around to you. I'm now pleased to introduce Abdul-Mateen Rajput from Inselspital University Hospital, Bern, who will be presenting a semi-automated approach to map clinical concepts to SNOMED CT terms using a terminology server. Abdul-Mateen, please proceed.
Good day, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the SNOMED Expo team to give me an opportunity to present our research. The presentation title of my research is Semi-Automated Approach to Map Clinical Concept with SNOMED terms by using terminology server. And here I would like to present our research, which has been published recently. Before continuing about the research, I would like to introduce to the hospital we work in. It's Insel Group. It's one of the largest healthcare network in Switzerland, with 6 hospitals in Bern area. We provide healthcare services to 860,000 patients per year. And there are more than 12,000 employees working in Insel Group. So it's just to give you an idea about the hospital and environment we are working in. Next is an outline of my presentation. The first thing I would like to discuss is objective, like why the work was needed. Then SNOMED, introduction of the SNOMED, a brief introduction of the SNOMED, and literature review about mapping and why, what are the possibilities out there, and then discussion about terminology server, and then use cases of mapping our clinical data to SNOMED CT. So the objective of our work was like mapping clinical concepts which were not really standard in or connected to any terminology to SNOMED. But then comes the first question: why mapping? We needed to have mapping because to achieve semantic interoperability and compliance by using SNOMED CT, as well as perform advanced queries and analyze clinical data. So there are various terminologies available other than SNOMED, but SNOMED is, as you know, the largest terminology in healthcare domain, and that's why we wanted to map our clinical concepts, SNOMED CT, and to retrieve the associated clinical analysis with the data. In this slide, I have shown an ideal situation. On the low part of the slide, you can see the segment, HL7 segment, which is observation research segment. Here you can see all the important data is mapped to a terminology. Like, for example, laboratory methods are mapped to link identifier, test name, and a code, which is like a local laboratory code, as well as UCOM units, which is for measurement, which is a measurement terminology, as well as clinical terms are mapped or parsed with SNOMED IP and SNOMED clinical terms and code. This is an ideal solution, but unfortunately, this has not been implemented to my knowledge anywhere in the world. Theoretically, it can be done, but there are many obstacles, and this might take another decade or many more years to be implemented. Thus, we need this manual mapping or semi-automated mapping to terminologies. I don't think I need to introduce why we needed SNOMED, because I guess everyone knows about SNOMED CT. It is considered as a global language of healthcare. It has more than 300,000 active medical terms and almost 3 million relationship, as well as it supports expression constraint language to execute advanced queries. One can also do pre-coordinated queries and post-coordinated queries. Yeah, on the right side, I have given a small example of what can be done by using SNOMED query language. So here comes the question: what has been done by using SNOMED mapping, and how many people have tried to map clinical terms to SNOMED CT? There is a paper, a nice review from a colleague. She actually done this research about terminology binding or terminology mapping and recommended some practices. Here you can see the database and the search string she performed, and you can see the hits she got, like how many papers are out there which have done the work, the similar work in terminology binding or mapping, and published those papers. On the right side, you can see a snippet, a screenshot of the paper where it says that no paper mention a file-based terminology server. So our work is novel in this way that we have used a file-based terminology server to map clinical terms. Yeah. Before going to discuss terminology server, I would like to show there are various possibilities to use SNOMED CT. There is a possibility that you can load a local SNOMED CT in local databases, for example, MySQL server, or as well as also SNOMED is also part of the Unified Medical Language System, UMLS, which covers a lot of terminology source vocabularies. I also used it with UMLS and as well as MetaMap to parse text with SNOMED and SNOMED Dagger. So there are various possibilities how one can use either with database or like with natural language processing. We have also done some work in oncology development, in multiple sclerosis oncology development, and retrieving the synonyms of concepts available in SNOMED. On the right side, you can see this the version of SNOMED loaded in from UMLS with different columns like SQUI, which is concept and identifier and code and so forth. And in addition to that, SNOMED offers also with terms, it also offers top level concepts, which are terms grouped by different concepts, or in terminology server where you call it semantic tags. So here you can see the top level concepts, which are disorder, procedure, findings, organism, substance, query structure, etc. I'm going to discuss this more in next slides. So what is the terminology server actually? So terminology server is the server which simplifies the process of sharing and understanding the recorded data with up-to-date terminologies. One does not have to keep like if you have a local installation of DB, like if you load it in MySQL server, you have to take care of your own terminologies by updating it. But if there is a central terminology server, like for example, we had it in Germany, one server can serve many different sites. It makes it possible to store mapping from local codes to international terminologies. So this can also be done by using different features by doing some mappings and then making it possible to make it available on terminology server side. And then it can be retrieved and work upon. File compliant terminology server also provides consistent formats and access methods across every terminology, especially with file suggestion. So yeah, this helps to share and use recorded data more easily. When we talk about a terminology server, Snowstorm, is a file terminology server which is developed by SNOMED International. It is an open source terminology server built on top of Elasticsearch. It offers multilingual search and content retrieval, as well as it has a read-only file API. I recently saw that the latest version contains supports the other core system, and actually like Loin or ICD-10 and so on and so forth. You can have your own core system uploaded to Snowstorm, and then it will provide you all the most features which are usually available for SNOMED CT. Here is the like this broad sketch of terminology server services available within terminology server. You can see that it's relatively effective way of deploying SNOMED CT. You can have one server serving many different sites, as I said, and then you can have concept description relationship or reference sets available in the terminology server, which can be accessed by either search terms or manual search terms, or running some queries via API, as well as you can have map data available. And then it's the string-based API Wi-Fi. Here I'm going to talk about our first use case, which was about microbiology data set. So we have got a request from microbiology department that they wanted to have their data, which were mainly microorganisms and methods, mapped to SNOMED CT. So there were, as German is a language we use here in Switzerland in our hospital. So there were 400 German concepts. Some were specific, some were not. And for example, the one which I marked with red underlined are those which were not specific. So, for example, you can see aerob mish flora, which means mixed flora, microbes, and the anti-lepon how flora. And so. Since the name, some of the names were identical to the English terms, we thought to automate this process of querying because this would be identical to the English term. And we did run some loops over Snowstorm endpoint of our SNOMED. As you can see on the figure, you can see that there were some successful retrieval. For example, the terms column 1 shows the terms queried. You can see actinomyces europaeus retrieved a concept ID and police specified name. Certainly it was in JSON file format. One needs to use the JSON file for do some editing to get the data which they are interested in. In our case, it was ID and FSN terms. So here you can see it was not only the terms which were queried, rather also synonyms, because those are not identical. So you can see actinomyces europaeus and Lamia europea are not like one match, but rather it retrieved that concept with identifier. You can also filter in the query whether you are looking for active concept or inactive concept. So that was also possible. In addition to that, one can also filter based on the semantic. As I mentioned earlier, there are findings, disorder, and so on and so forth. One can choose, in the query, one can choose which concept needs to be queried upon. So you can specify that you are looking only for organisms or disorders or findings and so on and so forth. That this will actually restrict the pool of the terms, like the results also. Constraint, exactly the constraint the results. There were some unsuccessful retrieval also, as I said earlier, that there were German terms. So German was certainly, there is no German SNOMED available, so it retrieved an error. Here you can see the reason of unsuccessful data retrieval. For example, is the Patricia species SPP was a short form to mention a species locally, and this did not retrieve any result. And then there was some slashes and group there, which is group in German, and bacterium, which was also a German term, bacteria complex, and yeah. So there were also some results which some terms which we did not get any research. So that was the first use case. Our second use case was about the ICD-10 code to SNOMED CT. So we have got a list of ICD-10 German modification codes from the visceral surgery department, and they were interested to have those codes translated or mapped to SNOMED CT concepts. And here you can see on the left side there is a table where all the actually some of the codes are shown, some of the ICD-10 codes. So we did it by using reverse lookup and using this ICD-10 to SNOMED CT map. It is not recommended to use the reverse lookup because the map was developed by in one direction. So it's ICD-10 to SNOMED, but sorry, it's SNOMED to ICD-10, and we use it in a different direction. The reason behind is because it's so granularity is different. So ICD-10 has some like some concepts which are grouped like they are not very specific, but in SNOMED CT they are very specific. And we did it as a pilot project to see whether it retrieves some results on positive results and whether we can use it. Exactly. So as I mentioned here also that one ICD-4 retrieve many SNOMED CT results. You can see on the table in the middle that there were actually this one is a definition of ICD-10. And on the right side, you can see SNOMED CT code. So the list we got was without any ICD-10 code. There were ICD-10 code, but they were not cleaned in a way because ICD-10 codes usually have a dot in them. Here you can see on the right side. So first task was changing from this raw ICD code to clean ICD-10 codes, where you can see not only the codes, also the definition of the codes. And then we chose those codes and queried web service, so Snowstorm web service, to retrieve the associated concepts of SNOMED CT. And on the right side, you can see that all one code, for example, D81.0, retrieved those so many SNOMED codes. In our case, we actually asked our clinician to check, but before going to discuss this, I would show you the end result because there is only codes. So after getting those codes associated with ICD-10 code, we were interested to retrieve the terms associated with those codes, meaning that the SNOMED codes and the associated terms where the concept has been defined. For example, then in this example, you can see that bleeding socket is these terms to make it easy for clinician to choose which clinical term is associated with what concept, what term. And and filter out the ones which were not really specific to that particular concept. As I said, a clinician reviewed the SNOMED CT concept, and we use Snowstorm REST API to keep all the associated terms also. But this could be dangerous, I would say, because we have issues. So I got actually blocked by SNOMED CT because I was running lot of queries, and I think at the server end, there is a restriction how many queries one can perform. And since it was automated, I was considered as the approach I was mentioning was considered as a bot or someone which is trying to hack or block the server. So yeah. But this problem can be avoided by using a local instance of Snowstorm. I would say, I mean, it's relatively straightforward to install and use Snowstorm, and then use all the terminologies available out there. So yeah, this was our work which we have done, and I think you find it useful. If you have any question, feel free to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Abdul-Mateen will now take questions. As a reminder, for those of you here in the room, please raise your hand and I'll bring you the microphone that I've left over there. That's one.
Thank you, Abdul-Mateen, for this very nice presentation. I'm curious to know for the use case number 1, where you mapped the microorganisms to SNOMED CT. Once you have solved the issues related to German language, what was the coverage of SNOMED CT content for your own requirements of microorganisms in your group of hospitals? Were there any gaps in SNOMED CT, or were you satisfied with the result?
Hello, can you hear me? First question.
Yep, we can hear you.
Great, thank you for the question. We actually, as I shown, there were some unsuccessful retrieval results, so we needed to translate those German terms in English. So there were some, the coverage was not 100%, but I would say we were satisfied at the end. Like we got like quite a lot of positive results and good results which were mapped. Like this has to be validated. We validated the results, but they were quite good. I would say, yeah, the coverage was good.
Thank you. And there's just one question more online. So have you tried restricting the search of concepts by using the semantic tags?
Exactly. That's why I mentioned it. And if you see the table on the first use case, all the concepts are associated with organisms, and actually that's the reason I like the terminology server approach, because with other tools or like loading this MySQL server with SNOMED or running other database approaches, you cannot really do that.
Okay, I'll just check there's no more. Okay, there's one last question, but I think you may have answered it in your presentation. That is, do you have a local instance of Snowstorm or any other terminology server?
Sorry, do I have one?
Do you have a local instance of Snowstorm or any other terminology server?
Exactly. So when I got blocked, I had to find a way, and then I used Snowstorm, the latest version, and I was glad to see that I could also upload LOINC and ICD-10 with the latest version of Snowstorm. So I am using that now also.
Okay, perfect. Any more questions in the room? Yep.
Hello. How do you manage updates of mapping updates of? Yes.
You mean the, for example, use case like the microbes, if they are being changed on?
Yes, if there are any other, I mean, if you have new terms that you start using and that haven't been mapped at the beginning, how do you manage them?
I can actually this will collect the new organisms which are out there or new concepts and then run the same approach again. Did I answer your question? I'm not sure if I understood.
Yes, no, it was more like with like if you do like every I don't know 6 months or like every month or if you do updates of the map.
I see. No, not yet. I mean, this is relatively new work, but this is a good point. Yeah, we need to see. I mean, the list is being given to microbiologists, and yeah, they reviewed it and returned us, and we will be checking certainly if there are new microbes or other concepts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, we will conclude this session. Thank you, Abdul-Mateen, for your online presentation. Online delegates can join another session by going through the event lobby. And for those on-site delegates who are playing the event game, please scan the QR code at the door. Thank you.